I was doing okay until Esther got up here.
That was awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So, and then all the great memories that we have with so many of you in the history. We're excited about the future. I just wanted to share just a moment. In 2011, we were serving on staff at a church. We had been there just a little over a year. We thought we were going to be there for about 5 years, a church in Amarillo. And we came to the Metroplex about 3 times over 4 months, and the Lord just started stirring in my heart. At that time, I'd already had this word, overflow, in me for several years. We thought if we ever started a church or we ever renamed a church, that would just be the name. That was just something, a word that the Lord had put in my heart. It's just been an emphasis. And so as we visited the Metroplex, in fact, I think most of the time, you weren't even with me, but 3 times, just conferences and different things and a wedding. And every time I was here, I remember the first time, Chris Estrada invited me to come speak at Christ for the Nations, and I walked out of the dorm room that we were staying in, and when I walked out, I was like, I'm supposed to be in the Metroplex. Like, there was just this longing in my heart that hadn't been there before. And so we just had a house built, I put it on the back burner, and then 2 more times over the next several months, that I had that feeling again. And the last time I couldn't put it on the back burner. So it just kept burning in me. And so finally I told Leslie, we just had a house built. This is January 2012. And I was like, man, I feel like that we're supposed to move to the Metroplex. We never, just so you know, we never wanted to plant a church. Never. That was never our desire, never our heart. We never wanted to do that. And so I told Leslie, I'm not sure if you weren't pregnant yet, and I was just like, so we put out our feelers. Hey, do y'all know anybody looking for a pastor? You know, we'd love to come take over a church. You know, maybe that'd be a little easier. And no news. And I was mowing the grass one day, and it was the spring of 2012, and to me it was obvious. Nothing was opening up, and it was obvious that God was calling us to plant. And so I told the Lord, I said, I believe, but you're going to have to help my unbelief, because I don't think I can do that. I don't think I have the capacity. I don't think I have the faith for it. I don't have the mindset for it. Lord, I don't know. You're just going to have to help me. And so over the next several months, the Lord just started burning this desire in our heart. We started saying, in our living room, we'll buy a house. We'll just start off in our living room. We'll share a meal together, worship the Lord, and minister to one another's needs. And we visited the Metroplex. We told the church we were in. We visited the Metroplex on what we thought was a vacation. It ended up being a house hunting trips, and we met 2 people that we had never met before that were doing home church. And they said it's all about being in your living room, sharing a meal together, ministering to one another's needs, worshiping the Lord, just verbatim. We had a vision, so the Lord was helping my unbelief. Our house sold in less than 24 hours, had a job offer as soon as things were open, so all the things that we were concerned about, the Lord met, and we moved out here. We just responded to the voice of the Lord, and I had my notes, and then I forgot them, but so what we're doing, and I just shared my first point, but really what we wanted to do today is just take 10 takeaways and talk about a little bit about what happened. And so the first one is this: respond to the whispers. And, you know, when the Lord sows in whispers, we reap in shouts of joy. And it's hard sometimes to respond to the whisper, but if you'll do that, the Lord built you for the thing he's whispering to your heart. And so if you just respond to that. We met Brooke that year. We have a very fun story to tell that we won't take the time today about her and Nathan. Her and Nathan had just kind of started talking. They weren't dating, of course. They were dating, but they just weren't talking about it. And Nathan sent me a really long text message expressing his love to Brooke, which came to my phone. It was awesome. And so most of y'all know
my
this.
Pastor a lot, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
He was right there. It was Josh and Brooke, and you know.
So I responded, I feel the same way. And it's because I did. And not entirely, but in part. Yeah. Phileo.
Yeah.
So we met Brooke,
with
we
them,
fell in love with her, and just, started Nathan was in our ministry in El Paso, and so that's how we had this connection. And so we talked to some other friends, Clark and Esther, to be on our board, and our friends Chad and Amber to be on our board, and just kind of be a support group for us as we just responded to really what that whisper that the Lord had given us. And so we met over here at Chili's off Carrier, and the Saturday before, we didn't know what we were doing. We still don't know what we're doing, but we really didn't know what we were doing then. And so we met with Nathan and Brooke, I think that Monday or Tuesday at that Chili's, and we said, hey,
we'll buy you dinner if you help us start a church.
Would
and
y'all
we said,
help
we're
us?
poor, yes.
Bro, college
We'll
kids, you know what I mean? Free Chili's, let's go. Come on.
I'll even buy you a molten lava, whatever it's called,
Cake,
the molten
yeah.
cake.
Yes.
Is it molten lava or
It's
just
delicious.
molten
I don't know.
chocolate?
It's something like that.
So we asked them, we said, will y'all help us? This was like the week of.
The only people
this
we
is how
asked.
strategic we were.
Yeah.
Will y'all help us? And they said, yes, we'd love to. And so we started on that Saturday night, sharing a meal together,
Yep.
ministering to one another's needs.
there
Leslie
was-
had a baby in her belly.
There was 9 of us there.
Yeah.
And we actually saw the service report the other day. We were cleaning out the office, and the offering that day was $8.60.
Yeah.
So
We're
that
making
was
the
awesome.
big bucks.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, and one thing that I have learned since that season, we had 9 there that day. And over the years, I've continually just had this aha moment. Like, there are more people in the room right now at a staff meeting than we had when we first started. There are more people now in the room at a leadership meeting than we had when we started. There are more people at a prayer set than, and it's just continually God keeps blowing my mind. And I've just had to realize that growth is not always linear, and success is not always numbers, because sometimes we get so focused on, we were 100, we thought we would be 100 people in 5 months. We're like, Josh preaches great. I lead worship pretty good. We're going to have an awesome church in the snap of, fingers. But no, it took us years to hit the 100 mark. And we just had to take a step back and just realize that did not define us, that did not say we weren't growing and we weren't having success. And so it's just been so rewarding. And I've also seen that, sometimes we grow wide and sometimes we grow deep. In 2017, 2019, we grew wide. We grew really fast, and we had all of a sudden this boom of people start coming. And then we all know what happened in 2020. But I really feel like 2022 has been a deep year. And I feel like we've all had a heart to just press into Jesus and really, truly encounter him, and not just make that something that we say all the time. And so I think this year has been a really deep growing year.
We've had to redefine what success looks like. Yeah. Success is in our yes. It's not in what it looks like, but our obedience to the Lord. And so, yeah.
Yep.
Love it. Well, for me, coming from a Bible school, a lot of times people go to they go to those schools because they feel like God has called them to be the next whatever, and they want to get equipped to do that. But then what ends up happening is that people leave that school unwilling to serve another person's vision because they're just pursuing the thing that they feel God called them to do. And one of the things that I learned, I heard it from Chris Valentin when he was talking. Someone had asked him about serving Bill Johnson, and he had said, he's like, be willing to serve another man's vision. If everybody was out pursuing their own vision, there'd be no one to help me build mine, right? Like, there'd be no one to serve your vision if everyone was just after pursuing, their thing, what they feel called to. And for me, that was worship and missions and youth ministry and just kind of the whole gamut. But
yeah, I think that there had to be like a mindset shift.
yeah, there had to be a lot. At the time when I was at CFNI, there was a stat that only less than half of the students were serving at a church because they felt like they were at church every day at this Bible school. And Pastor Adam McCain, he was the director of the school at the time, and he really had to nip that in the butt and get that mentality out of folks' mind. Go serve another man's vision. Go serve at a church. This is where you grow here at the school, but you're gonna go take this stuff and go serve it, plant it at a local, in a local body.
Yeah.
And so one of my biggest takeaways during the last 10 years has been be willing to serve another person's vision.
Yeah.
And do it with a good heart,
Yeah, I agree. Same for me. I mean, we both went to the same Bible college. And so I think I had the same aha moment I was reading a Chris Valentin book, probably the same one you were reading and didn't even know it. The Lord was like, Brooke and Nathan, do better. And I'm just kidding. I think that when you go to a Bible college and you're so filled with all of these expectations and people are telling you you're going to go change the world and you're world changers, and you are, but that doesn't mean that the only way you can move in your calling is if you follow your own vision. And ultimately, aren't we all serving someone else's vision? We're serving God's vision, and it's to bring the kingdom here. And I think if you stop looking at it like, everyone has to kind of lay our own vision down and say, okay, Lord, like, what do you want? Rather than, I feel like God gave me this vision to do this and this and this, and why is Overflow not 24/7 prayer, house of worship and prayer? Because we're serving Pastor Josh and Leslie's vision that God gave them. And because we get to, it's not a have to, because we get to serve them, it is a joy. And that kind of, I guess, leads me into my next point. It's that I've learned that being faithful is at times more rewarding than being fruitful. And I think a lot of times we work so that we can get the fruit rather than being faithful, because when I go see Jesus, he's not going to say, well done, good and fruitful servant. He's going to say, well done, good and faithful servant. My calling is to be faithful to the Lord. It is not to be fruitful. If I am faithful, I will be fruitful. But I am not faithful to be fruitful. And I think I had to get out of that mentality, because I've preached it before. I'm very much a works-driven person, and the Lord has really had to show me, you need to just be faithful. And Pastor Josh has preached it before, but in the kingdom, it's faithful, 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 fruitful, right? Like, you are faithful for a very long time. And there are times, guys, you're not going to see the fruit. And I had to kind of lay that down. Okay, Lord, maybe I won't see this that I'm praying for, and that's okay, because ultimately I'm so honored that I get to be faithful to the Lord. And a lot of times when we're just looking for the fruit, we miss what the Lord has for us in the season of us being faithful. And so I think that that's something that the Lord's really taught me in these 10 years.
Yeah, that is the story of our church, has just been responding, just being faithful to the voice of the Lord and really the promptings of the Holy Spirit. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot of times from people, they're like, was it what you expected? Is, planning a church, was it what you expected? And I was like, no, it's totally not what I expected. Leslie had mentioned this, we thought, we would explode and we would follow all the systems and keep all the rules, and then growth would happen, right? We would have all these people start showing up, and God had something different for us. And you have to get out of that mindset of this is what success looks like. It's just kind of what we keep talking about. And it's like, has Overflow been successful? I think everybody in the room today would agree, yes, but it doesn't look like what we expected it to look like. And if I said, okay, Lord, this is what I want the church to look like, and I wrote down my vision, it would not look like what it does today. But the Lord has said, you know what? This is going to be more fulfilling. This is what I want. And so when people ask me, I say, it's been different. It's been special in expectation, and that I expected my fulfillment to come from numbers, or how many people were baptized that year, or how many people are, on staff, or how many conferences you're getting invited to speak to. I thought success would look like that. Instead, success has been like you in my home. Success has been the relationships that we've had. Success has been the depth that we've had. We talked a little bit about vision and those kind of things. And, we knew what community was, but we were just scratching the surface. But what we have at Overflow, and I think that we can say this with confidence, is this is a family. And it's not a family because you check in on Sunday. We were going through a difficult time a couple of years ago, and Bree Hargrove sent us a text message. And she said, I want you to know that it's happening. She said, I showed up on Sunday and people were sharing a book that they had borrowed. And, someone else had left a thermos. I don't remember all the things, but little things that were proof that community was happening. And it wasn't because it was programmed. Yeah. And we've just found that, man, that's so meaningful. Just being able to walk through people through their difficult times, and being able to celebrate, a child that was promised but wasn't happening, and being able to see the answer to those prayers, and being able to baptize people and be able to walk through all those times. It's been so rewarding.
Absolutely. And I think in this, as we have been a strong knit community, it's been so freeing from some of the past, I guess, religiosity that I was raised in, that Christians are not perfect. And if we force them to pretend that they're perfect, we're forcing them to be fake. And I think that over the years of Overflow, we have had almost everything you can think of, from people to being in jail, to unplanned pregnancies, to, all kinds of things, people struggling with drug and alcohol abuse. And we're not forcing them to be fake. We're just saying, bring it into his house, and let's give it to the Lord, and let's do this together, and we'll carry each other's burdens together. And it's just been so freeing to see that we're not perfect. Pastor Josh says it all the time when he's preaching. We're not perfect, and so we're not gonna cast judgment on anybody, because we all know that we are imperfect people who love a perfect God, and where our hearts are to please Him and to strive to be more like Him. But I think it's just been so awesome that as we are a family and as we're following Jesus together, we will all continue to look more like Him the further down the road we get. But it's just so freeing to know that when you're in the family, you have issues. And families have issues, and families work out issues together. So,
Love it.
Sorry, my husband was really listening.
Yeah, that's good, man. I love it.
Woo.
Sweet. So another thing that I guess Pastor Josh had asked us to come up with a few things that we've learned and over the 10 years. The second thing that I had was that not every open door is from the Lord. Pray about opportunities that may arise, even if they're appealing. I would even say, especially if they're appealing.
yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Exactly what you've been wanting. It might be from the Lord, but it might also be your own desires and not necessarily His. And so, submitting your desires to Him and asking Him, Father, is this thing that I'm wanting from You because You put it there and You want me to pray for it and intercede for it and kind of sow seed there? Is that why that's in my heart? Or is it because that's what I want? Because that's my idea of success, or what the next thing for me is going to be. And submitting all those things to Him and waiting for His response. And if I don't hear His response, this is really the third point, but it fits perfectly here. If I don't hear His response about what's next, do the last thing He told you to do. Do it faithfully, honoringly, with a good heart, until you hear the next thing. Until you hear the next thing. God, I'm not really hearing Your voice clearly right now about what's next. What do? Do the last thing I told you. Do the last thing I told you. And that's what I've heard over the last 10 years. Well, anytime that I've brought it up, like, Lord, what's next for me and Brooke? What's next for this next season? We at some point we wanted to start having kids, and we're like, is that going to be like, are we going to need to move? Are we going to need to, like, what's the thing, Lord? And what do I need to do next? Me trying to be the leader of the home and, whatever, right? And every time I asked Him, it was just, He said, do the last thing I told you. Just stay where you're at and serve faithfully until I tell you the next thing.
Yeah.
So,
It's been great, though.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. So there's really no way for me to tie in the next point, so I'm just going to go to it. So the next thing that I've learned is that much growth happens when you learn to rejoice when others get what you're believing or praying for. And tag to that, it's also really humbling to get to rejoice with people that you're leading who are getting what you pray for. Because many of you know, Nathan and I started trying to grow our family, and it took us 2 years. But we started trying in August, and by October, there was like 7 people pregnant here in our tiny little church. And I remember just being like, but Lord, like, clearly you're blessing this house. You've probably heard the house of the open womb. It had happened a few months before that. And I felt like, well, I'm on staff here. I should be getting that blessing, right? Like, if anyone should be getting pregnant with probably twins or triplets, it's me. And
no, thank you. No, thank you. No twins. Keep
listen,
the twins, Lord.
I used to
That's
think
probably
that.
why it took so long, because I was like, no. Just one. Just one, Lord.
But it was really humbling for me to have, to learn to truly rejoice with people when they're getting what we're praying for. I think a lot of times when people move in, say it's a calling or, a healing, and they receive that, you look at it and you're like, okay, you almost feel like it's the Lord took your exact blessing and gave it to them. And I had to learn, no, like he literally has an infinite amount of healing, an infinite amount of everything that we need. And I can rejoice with them because mine is going to come. The Lord will heal me. The Lord will bring me, move me into my calling, whatever it is. And so were you going to tag on there a little bit?
It's like we think that God only has a limited amount of that thing.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
right.
when it happens before us, we're like God, like we're almost afraid that he's going to run out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Exactly.
He's going to run out of that thing that we're believing
Yep.
for. And it's like, dude,
It's really a poverty mentality.
Exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
We think that like you said, it's going to run out, and we've just got to learn to celebrate what we want in others. You know, you allow that to be a seed for our faith. And Max Shirley, who is on the video, we've been praying for a building, and they got a building given to them. Well, we've had that prophetic word, and we had lunch one day, and he had like tears in his eyes, and he said, as soon as they gave us a building, I said, well, what about Josh? And I was like, man, what a good friend that he said that.
Yeah.
But I remember like when he told me that they were given the building, it didn't make me discouraged. It actually increased my faith.
Exactly, yeah.
And so just learning to hear those things, and and I think that you guys did have to learn that through that difficult process of just celebrating what you want in others.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
just one last little thing. So the kindness of the Lord is that as we're waiting and as we're celebrating other people getting pregnant and all that good stuff, we found out that we were pregnant on August 4th, right, 2019, right before the pandemic. And Bella was born in April of 2020. Well, then 2 years pass, and August 4th comes, 2021, and we're excited about the day because we're like, man, this was such a special day a couple years ago. And we were just happy about the day. It was so sentimental, right? August 4th, the day we found out we were pregnant, and we waited so long for this. Well, Brooke had started feeling weird that day. She took a pregnancy test and found out she was pregnant again on the day that we found out. 2 years to the day.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Brooke, isn't it so kind of the Lord that he would remind you on the day of that you didn't have to work for this.
Yeah.
I'm a gift giver, and I love you.
Yeah.
And I keep you in mind.
Thanks for
And that
making
was
me
it.
cry. But speaking of crying, we're about to make all of you cry. You all get a card. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Here it goes.
We've been waiting for you. We've been waiting for you longer than you know. We've been praying for you. We've been praying for you harder than you know. You are our good gift, given by a good Father. You are our promise, promised by a good Father. And now we can't believe you finally with us, and now it's forming you into all you will become.
Oh man.
That's so good.
And if you guys didn't know, Nathan mostly wrote that song when we found out we were pregnant
Yeah,
with
that
our
was them
first.
singing.
Yeah,
That was so good.
that was our baby announcement for Isabella.
So beautiful.
Yeah, praise the Lord. It's so good.
It broke the internet
so good
when
to
you
see
guys
those
posted it.
Yeah.
miracles.
We didn't get any record deals though, so
Not yet.
Awesome. So we just have 2 more points real quick, but part of planting a church that can be kind of tough, honestly, is that some people are with you for a long time. i.e. Nathan and Brooke, the only ones. And some people are with you for a season. And Mariah and Judah. Thank you, children, for not leaving.
Thanks for not leaving,
The
guys.
best way to grow a church.
Yeah, we just started having lots of babies. We need our church to grow, so we just started
But
having
we're
babies.
done. Shout close.
No, but, yeah.
We're done.
Don't pray
Lord,
for us to have more kids, please. Okay.
We don't need miracles here.
No, but unfortunately, some are just for a season, and we have had a lot of people that have moved cities, moved states, moved on to something else that the Lord had for them here, and so that's been tough. But what has been so rewarding is to realize that kingdom relationships are forever. And you cannot see each other for a long time. And as soon as you see each other, you're just there and you're together and you're happy and you're in the kingdom. And there's no gangs in the kingdom, right? Like we're all in. You don't have to like throw your signs.
Blood in, no blood out.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
We are a family, whether we still meet in this building or not, we're still a family. And we had this massive hiatus of like 6 core families from staff, leaders, and long-term members and volunteers leave last summer. And Josh about lost his mind during that season. It was a little rough. But we had some friends of the sponsors were just in town. This is the only time they ever came to our church.
It's right there.
Right over there where
Right
Dell and Dina are sitting. And he and Josh was like, yeah, it's just been really tough because we've had a lot of people this summer have just moved. And he said, yeah, well, it's like you're extending your tent pegs. And that's a scripture. We've heard it. But I've always thought about it as like when your church grows, you have to get a bigger building. Like I just never even thought about it out of any context of that. But he was like, no, he's like, the people that carry Overflow and what God has been doing here, they're moving to Alabama, like the Baileys, and they're taking it there. And now your reach can go all the way to Alabama because whatever God did here is inside of them and they're going and they're extending tent pegs. And it was just so powerful to think in a way that was not, we weren't losing anything. Overflow was advancing the kingdom even outside of this building. So
That's been hard.
Yeah.
That has been one of the more difficult things because we really do, when people say, let's do life together, like that becomes kind of slogan-y and real fun to brand. But for us, like we've really discovered that we really deeply love these people. And so that's the reason why it hurts. It doesn't just hurt because it's a number. I feel like that we've kind of moved on from that, that number being the metric. And praise the Lord that he's delivering us from that. It creeps
That's
up
right.
from time to time, for sure. But the Lord is delivering us. And kind of the last point is that it moves really fast. Elisa's not in here, but when we started this church, she was still in the womb. And, there's a lot there that we can't get into. But when she was born, it was like the Lord in his mercy gave us her as of who she is, but also for her to be a physical representation of what the church is. And so when we were young, we couldn't take care of ourselves. As we got a little older, we could start to walk and we could be a little bit more stable. But now she's almost 10. And, so our church is kind of like that. She can do a few things on her own. She doesn't need us as much as she did. She's able to walk and function. And so it's been a beautiful picture and a reminder, but it moves fast. It moves so fast. It was like, I was been looking at pictures and weeping all week and just look at pictures of her when she was born. And it feels like yesterday, and the older we get, it seems like time's going faster. And, the thing that I want to encourage you in is this, and this will kind of be our final thought, is that lean in. Just lean in. Because if you don't lean into these moments because you're so focused on tomorrow, you're so focused on getting out of the diaper phase. You're so focused on getting out of the crawling phase or the not talking phase. Eventually, you'll want them to quit talking. But just leaning into those seasons and just hearing the voice of the Lord and experiencing the pleasure of God right now. And I think so many people, they think that destiny is a place that we're going. Destiny's right now. The plan of God, the will of God for you is right now. It's in the daily. It's not in, somehow we've polluted our mind. Remember, Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't be so focused on that because it'll rob today of its joy. And so I just want to encourage you, lean in, whatever season you're in, just lean in. Not lean into the difficulty, lean into Jesus. Just like you're going to lean into him when you're celebrating, when you're weeping, just lean into that.
Thank you for joining us at Overflow Church today. We hope that you are encouraged and encountered the reality of Jesus. If you did, please let us know in the comments. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything that we have coming up. Have a great day.